etc., etc., etc. You're beautiful as you are.
Hello, welcome back to the Inspiration Sessions. I'm really excited about today's episode because my guest is someone I've known and admired for a long time, the incredibly talented Amy Manion. Amy is a singer-songwriter, poet, and visual artist based here in Massachusetts. We've been friends and fellow performers through Tunefoolery for about 8 years now, sharing stages, planning events, and even going on organizational retreats together. She has a powerful voice, both literally and figuratively, and we'll be talking not only about her artistry and lived experience, but also a very special upcoming event she's organized called Witness Poetry, Music, and Talk. So stay tuned for that later in the episode. You're going to want to hear all about it. So first, I'd like to speak a little bit about how, as I do in this series, about how this person inspires me. And Amy inspires me in so many ways. First off, she is a natural advocate. I've seen her speak up in spaces where I myself have stayed silent, in meetings, in group discussions, always with such clarity and courage, especially around justice and equity. That's something I deeply admire. She's also fearless in her music, like really fearless. Her vocal improvisations blow me away. It's a mix of raw emotion, skill, and total presence. It's not easy to be that open in music performance, and Amy just flows with it. And beyond that, her commitment to community, both the Asian American community and the mental health community, is real. Whether it's performing at events, mentoring youth, or just showing up for people, Amy walks the walk. And so I want to introduce Amy. Hello, how are you today?
Hi. I'm
Yay,
sorry.
Amy.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wow, that was a wonderful intro. And yeah, you warned me I might get a little, you're just gonna talk me up, but it was so nice to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, so do you have any? We met about, I think it's about 8 years ago, through Tunefoolery. And because that's when I think I joined about 8 years ago. You've been a Tunefoolery member longer than I have, I think.
2012, so I guess that's 13, maybe 13 years.
Wow,
Wow.
yeah. But I remember meeting you um, I went to check out Tunefoolery before my audition, and I was in some songwriter group or something, and I don't know if you remember at all, because we've been in so many groups together, you know. But I remember I was in a room with a bunch of guys, most of them with gray hair, and I was like, "What the heck?" And then you were there, and representing, you know, and it was like, oh, that was nice. And you were quick to speak up and share your perspective, and I really love that. And so I was like, well, that's really good energy that I'm seeing here, other than this group of older gentlemen that just didn't really have the energy that I was feeling at the time, but you did, and you were
Mm-hmm.
motivated and excited. And so that was my first impression
Wow.
of you.
Oh, wow. Thank you. So 2000, so you've been around 8 years, so 2025, 2017. So it would have been before the pandemic. So, because
Oh,
originally I'm
yeah.
thinking like a Zoom screen, but no, that's not what you were talking about. But
No, it was a little meeting in that little circle. Um, I don't
in the
remember
in
what
the
the group
main
was
room,
about. Yeah, in the
uh-huh.
main room. And I wasn't a
Wow.
member yet.
Really?
So it must
Okay.
have been some sort of, maybe Jens put together a special thing for
Wow.
open
Okay.
house or something.
Because I remember like I think the first memory I have of you was you performing at the Lily Pad, and you
Oh,
did
yeah.
like this song about, you told me later what it was about, but it sounded like it was like fictional, but I didn't know that, so I'm thinking it's real, about losing a child, or like you
Yeah,
told me
that's my
later on
child.
that's what is it called again?
It's called That's My Child. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just so blown away. You did another song too, so it might have been like a Tuneful gig where we would perform two songs at the Lily Pad.
Yeah.
I love those gigs, but
I
you
remember
who
that gig. Yeah.
yeah, you just blew me away with your authenticity and the lyrics, the songwriting, and yeah, it was like very memorable and very
Oh,
heartfelt. Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
I have to say, a lot of the memories that I have of you up to current day is really your advocacy within Tunefoolery, and your passion and your advocacy. Really, you have a lot of courage, and I see it all the time. And I've been in so many meetings where I'm biting my tongue. I don't know what to say, but I want to say something. There's injustices going on here, and I'm like, oh, good, Amy's here, and Amy be like, this is what's going on, people, you know. And because you have a lot of courage to do that, where I get scared to
Yeah.
do that, I feel like everyone's gonna attack me,
Yeah, it was really nice to hear you say that because sometimes you don't know, are you making a difference? Are you seeing the world as like similarly as others, or like I don't know, because like I also like one of my diagnoses is social anxiety, and I feel it like in these, so like, but I really care about Tunefoolery and the organization or where I show up to, and so then sometimes even if I'm so anxious or my heart races before I have to say something, I just say it anyways because I feel like it needs to be said, and because I care so much that like any fear in that moment, I override it, even if I feel so dysregulated afterwards or during or before. I'm like, this just has to be said, and whether I say it always in the most gracious way or not, I don't know. But like, yeah, having a strong sense of, oh, this needs to be said. Like, I don't know. It's not easy, and it's just validating to know that, oh, someone else saw something needed to be said there. So thank you for that.
yeah. Another thing that has always impressed me is we were in a songwriting group, and maybe Delphi was running it, or someone else. It might have been before Delphi, but we were talking about improv, and you gave an example of vocal improv, where you just started singing words and melodies that came into you as you were just strumming a chord. And that is something, when you did that, I immediately said in my brain, I can't do that. That's a talent that I do not have at all. Like, I can't just start singing and playing. I need to know what's coming and what's going. And
Uh-huh.
that immediately impressed me when you did that. And I've seen you do it several times live at open mics and things like that. And I'm like, to be able to do that, like get up on stage in front of people and go, I'm just gonna wing it, and that's just like impresses me so much. So yeah, that's just a talent
Wow.
that you have that really has always impressed me.
Thank you so much. Yeah, about that. Like, I felt terrified. Like, I think it's just been practice. So, like, Tomfoolery used to have a band. We've had different iterations of bands, and one was with I was in and a few other people. We used to jam in the basement of the Fuller, and like, so it's like this huge space. Nate was able to have his full drum kit. We were fully amplified, electric, guitar, acoustic bass, and then
I
just
came to
vocal.
that jam one time.
Oh, you did? Yeah, because sometimes there was guests, like, yeah. So then, we would rehearse every week for a long time, for gigs, and then a lot of times, like these musicians are amazing. So like we would improvise, or a lot of times they were like improvising, and then I'm like music on their instruments. I was like, oh, I need a. So I just started like that's how I started, and then it was terrifying for a long time. I felt like I don't know what I'm doing, and then having lessons with Molly, where it's like voice movement type of therapy, where you just you let
Molly, that's
out
who it
words.
was. Yeah,
Exactly. And so then like
yeah.
she played the piano, and then I would able. I think I developed a lot of it there. And then one time we did because we had a recording studio too fully. So like one of my first recording sessions ever was like with her on the piano, Tony on bass, double bass, and me, and us being all amplified, hooked up to the recording studio, just improvising. So like a lot of it was just like trying it and being terrified and then just doing it and the practice, right? So I'm so
Yeah.
grateful to have those opportunities.
That's really
Yeah.
cool.
The thing that I'm like, I was, I feel like I'm not developed and kind of terrified of still is like the harmonizing. And then I feel like there's some people that are really good at it, but like I asked them, how did you get good at it? And I think they just practice, right? Like to the radio or to just whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's a skill I want to develop more of, you know?
That's often the answer as how to do something I find is, well, it's practice.
It's like, oh, there's gotta be something different, right? We don't want to
Yeah.
hear that.
Yeah. My neighbor Jeff always tells me, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. He reminds me of that all the time.
Yeah, so that's a big cup of coffee a
It
month.
is. It's my
That's great.
wicked cup. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's nice.
Okay, well, Amy, I have some questions here for you.
Sure.
And let me see here. So, as someone who wears a lot of hats, musician, poet, advocate, how do you see those parts of yourself intersecting in your day to day life? And what I mean is, do you feel like those identities blend together naturally for you, or do they each show up at different times depending on the space or the project you're working on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think they definitely blend in with each other, and I feel most comfortable in the advocacy space as a performer, as like an events creator. Even though that's also very terrifying too. So like in terms of advocacy, if I'm in like different meetings or a specific like committee, those don't always feel very comfortable, but in a way I think I have a strong talent for it. I don't know if that's the right word, but like I feel like it's important that I'm in those spaces even though they don't always feel like comfortable in some ways. Um Part of that could be social anxiety, part of it could be other things. But I guess my art is a natural advocacy. Like, they say the personal is political type of thing. So because of the identities I hold or the way I'm racialized or identified as, it's naturally if I speak up, it's just natural. Like that in itself is advocacy. Me just even creating and putting stuff out there, in a way that's just advocacy. So in a way that's natural. And for me, art is survival. It's like I have to do it to cope. And I notice is it the chicken or the egg? Like I'm not doing well mentally or what physically or whatever. Like so is it because I'm not creating art as much or am I not creating art as much because I'm not feeling well? But I feel like they go hand in hand. When I'm doing well, maybe I'm more in a space where I can create more and vice versa or whatever. So I don't know if I answered your question, but like I think the arts is where I feel the most at home and able to like show up in the world and communicate in a more structured way than just small talk.
Yeah, I can relate to you in that sense where I feel like an advocate, but the arts is where my voice comes from and where I can better, when I create, it's usually as a form of advocacy. And so they flow
Mm,
together pretty well.
yeah.
But yeah, so I can relate to you in that sense. Um, you've spoke openly about the importance of both seeing, both being seen and seeing others. What does that idea, being a witness, mean to you personally? I'm thinking especially about your upcoming event, Witness. The title itself is powerful. I'd love to hear what it means to you and how the idea connects to healing or creativity in your life.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. Cause like on my flyer that I created for the event, I chose to do originally I wanted to be a bilingual flyer. And so anyways, cuz it's at the Chinatown Library, my event, and I don't know, I'm Chinese heritage and it just has so much symbolism for me. So then I don't know how to speak it, right? But I, went to Google Translate. What is the character for witness? And I verified it with someone that does know the language and knows the characters. I chose to do it in traditional Chinese characters. Just it's just symbolic for me. But I also have a version of simplified. Anyways, when I told this person, she's an older Chinese woman. When she's like, "Oh, witness sounds like cops and robbers," it seems like, oh, like she had kind of a
Uh,
negative connotation with it. I was like, yeah, that's really interesting, the different connotations of that word. And it seems like, oh, you're on the spotlight, or more, maybe a more religious tone, of, oh, testimony, testify, or whatever. Or, yeah, it has an intense kind of weight to that word, right? And, um, and maybe that was intentional, or I feel like I am an intense person, or I feel things so deeply, and things just feel so life and death a lot of times. But so
yeah.
witness to me, I have a poem about with that word in it, about like the act of like sharing and creating. And like it's called Ode to Creation, right? All the different forms of art, and it's very playful. And at the end, it's kind of like, yeah, but when you're creating solo, or even if it's in a collaboration way, but when you the art, or whatever form it is, when it comes into with an audience, if they're witnessing, if they're looking at your painting, if they're in the audience listening to your words or your music, there's a power to that. There's something that happens that's beyond either person, either artist or witness, audience member. When they come together, it's like it's its own life. It's um for me that's very powerful in the artistic sense, but also in the just sharing one's story, maybe in the interpersonal sense, where it's like, well, okay, so I talk about being a witness to your own experience, to validate yourself, to even speak it out, or even like to be mindful of it. Like,
Hmm.
wow, like that whole idea of like mindful self-compassion, like this is a moment of suffering, that mindfulness, like, oh, this happened. I felt a certain way about it. Like, this is not in my head. Like, even if my experience is from my head, it's still something that I experienced.
Yeah.
I'm being kind of cryptic, but like, I think it's very key, a starting point to healing in a way, to say, or to not feel like you're crazy, or like things are just out of left field. It's like, oh, this happened. This made me feel a certain way. I experienced this. So that's kind of being your own witness, validating your experience,
Yeah.
and then like witnessing someone else, listening to their story and validating it. Like maybe you don't understand it, maybe it sounds far-fetched, maybe it's something you can't relate to, but to just hear their story, like, oh, I hear you. I'm listening. So I think there's so much power to that. And I feel like there's not enough of that. And I think that when you don't feel heard, when you don't feel seen, either self identity, like I'm not even listening to my own self, I'm not validating myself, or I'm not validating someone else, I'm not listening to someone with non judgment, someone else's experience, that could create a lot of suffering, more suffering, when you don't witness, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
or you don't acknowledge what you're seeing. So yeah, I guess it just has so much meaning to me in that way.
I love the word, and I didn't realize why I love the word until you explained that the weight that it has, that it can mean different things to different cultures, that one word can mean something legal or something, or testify, and I often hear, like, I've been working on my book, so I think my story, tell my story, which doesn't really have as much weight as witness. And so I really like that. And I also feel like in today's um, the way the world is today, that we need to hear each other's stories, and there's a lack of empathy but in the world, but if we're listening to each other's stories, that's how we can gain some empathy towards others. Yeah, so thank you so
Totally.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about the event at the Chinatown Library, Witness Poetry, Music, and Talk? How did the idea come to you? What inspired you with this event? How did it evolve into a full gathering of performers, of youth performers, women of color poets, and a rich lineup of experiences and conversations? How did this all kind of develop?
Oh, great
From
question.
okay, that's I really threw it out there, but like just from your perspective, how did it,
Yeah,
develop?
no, thanks for asking. Um, I just feel silly saying thanks for asking, but I really do. I appreciate the question. Um, so this, I don't know, this was, I haven't done a grant like on my own since maybe 4 years ago. And I think part of that is, there's a lot of reasons for that, but this one, someone encouraged me to apply. Actually, someone, a member of the board member of the Friends of the Chinatown Library, who the grant is through, she encouraged me. Hey, I guess she saw that I've done poetry, and I met her at another gig, a youth-led. She was an audience member, a youth-led event in Chinatown called Films at the Gate, where these youth somehow found me. I don't really have a big online presence, but maybe because the Chinatown, like Asian American community in Massachusetts is like interconnected in a lot of ways, or like people, if you're have some, if you've done something in there, maybe people hear about you. So like they heard about me
Sure.
somehow. It was so meaningful, and like, it was like an outdoor event, and she was in the audience, and then she like reached out to me, and she got me this other gig. That she's just like an artist herself, Anita Yip, and she's just so civically engaged and doing so much for the Asian American community and community at large. And yeah, just being in touch with her, she encouraged me to apply, and then I did. And then originally she wanted like, oh, you do poetry, maybe a poetry workshop. And I was thinking that, but I'm like, oh, that terrified me too much. I'm like, I feel more comfortable as a performer. So then I just kind of was going to replicate what I did 4 years ago, but that was more with the elderly population. And then this is kind of complicated. Like out of necessity, we had to gear it towards youth because, but then that's a population I wanted to work with for a while, anyways.
Sure.
But then it kind of was terrifying too because like I haven't worked with them in a while, and I think they're more, they harsh. I won't say harsh, but I think they could spot inauthentic, inauthentic. Like you have to like really bring it with them, and plus this is like more the teenage population. I'm like, oh my god, they can pinpoint insecurity
Oh
so
yeah.
much. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, I can't show up to this.
They
You know
can
what I
be
mean? So
brutal if they want to be.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard I'm not alone. Like from stand-up comedy bits, like the
I used
teenagers
to run a
can.
teen center, and
Oh
it was
really?
for 4 years. Yeah, and it was interesting times. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's evolved a lot because originally it was just gonna be me doing spoken word and music, just kind of like just me. But then I wanted to involve the youth. I kind of wanted them to like inform the event and like tell me what they wanted because I wanted to involve youth in Chinatown schools. And for a while I was procrastinating. I'm like, I'm kind of terrified of, and I finally did. I got buy-in from the Josiah Quincy Upper School, that's like sixth graders to 12th graders. The librarian there, who used to be a teacher, she has such a great relationship with these kids. Anyway, she was so excited. I made the initial call, and that's what the Chinatown youth librarian told me to do in the beginning. Hey, I can connect you with her, but I was just, for whatever reason, I was like avoiding it. I finally made the call, and she was so like enthusiastic, got me in touch with these kids. I would meet with them weekly for like a few months, and it was hard in the beginning, and for a while I didn't know how I was coming across, and I felt like kind of up in the air. What am I trying to do here? But now they really helped inform it. So a few of them are going to be performing either spoken word or music. Two of them are going to co-host and co-interview. They came up with questions. That was my
Nice.
vision, yeah. And then now seeing it all come together. And then my collaborators, we have a spoken word women of color collaborative, like me and two other women, called Spitting Fire for Freedom. And we had a grant a few years ago where we made a film of our work. Like one of the collaborators' husbands filmed us, anyways, they're gonna be at the event, and we're gonna show an excerpt of the film. Maybe they'll do some live performance, and then one of them is an artist, so she's gonna have an art. We're gonna have an art table and have the prompts and questions like, "What does witness mean to you?" Like I'm gonna bring rocks, like one because like I was inspired by another event I was a part of. That they had all these different like artistic stuff going on. So it's been very organic and it's kind of evolved, and in a way it's been like I feel like, oh, I don't even know what I'm doing, but then it's all just coming together. And so it's a lot of different things, and it's been much more meaningful, more than I could have imagined. And like having the youth, I've been so inspired by them, and um yeah, their talents, their leadership skills. One of them made the flyer uh
Cool.
for it, and I was able to let them see the film and then also my self-published work, and that's what informed a lot of their questions. And my work, a book I did of my poetry and my art. One of the students was also a musician and artist. He was inspired by my art, and it just meant so much to me to hear their feedback and that I'm inspiring them. Like, oh, it's more than I could have imagined. So,
That's
yeah,
great. That's wonderful. I'm excited for the event. I'll be there. So yeah,
yay!
I'm really excited for it. Um, what do you hope that people walk away from the experience, whether they're in the audience or one of the young performers involved? Like if someone was to come to witness and it really lands with them, what do you hope sticks with them emotionally, creativity, yeah, that's a hard word to say. And what do you hope the youth take away from being a part of it?
Wow, thank you for these wonderful questions. So, I thought a little bit about that. I think in my little brochure that I created, like program to give out to people at the event, I kind of talk about like a little like intro from the event creator, or uh, I said something about like it's hard to just for me to just exist, to be here, as a suicide attempt survivor, like still processing like what does it mean to have a life worth living, as they say, or what keeps me here, and just reflecting on that, like um I guess I like want people to know that hey, it's hard. Life is hard, like, and maybe some of us might share like in the film or some of my pieces talk about the hardness of life, the hard experiences. But just like I hope they find like some hope or some not feeling as alone or just like inspired and like entertained, inspired, a sense of like I hope it gives life and somehow like feels witnessing beauty or just feeling like it's worthwhile, meaningful. Like it's really important to like experience art, go to shows or whatever. It's like life-giving, right? And so I'm grateful this is free and open to the public, and I just hope like us as the performers like realize we have something meaningful to tell, and that as the audience, wow, this was important. This was like meaningful for me to be here and to support and to show up and maybe feel more sense of hope and community and purpose, or not as alone. And then for the performers, I wanted them to develop like leadership skills and performance experience, and just like to have that experience and to like learn from it. And I don't know, somehow like think about that idea, that question, what does it mean to be a witness to my own experience and to someone else's, and how do I build that self-compassion? I think that's what I've been trying to build up for myself, and I think it's so fundamental to being human and what we need to survive is to build the
Oh yeah.
self-compassion, right? So I feel like being witness is related to that.
There's a way to do that. Have self
Yes,
compassion. That's very, yeah, that's a good
and
thought. Yeah,
compassion for the other. Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a bit of a broader question here artistically, but when you're writing, whether it's a song or a poem, how do you know when a piece is ready to share? Is it more about the moment than perfection? Do you ever wrestle with wanting to just get it right, or are you someone who feels out the emotional timing of a piece and goes with your gut, like when you made the call to re-release Nadia Says. Was what
Uh,
was going on for you there?
wow,
It was
yeah, that's
very. I noticed that you said, it's brave, releasing re-releasing it again. So, do you kind of
yeah.
go by timing or your emotional gut, or are you
Wow.
a perfectionist about it?
I feel like all of the above. Sometimes I wrestle so much about the ramifications of sharing a particular work, especially if it's so raw out there or even confrontation can be seen as controversial, confrontational. And what impact will this have in history? Or, maybe that's a little grandiose to think about, but is this done responsibly? Is this done? How are people going to take it? Sometimes I overthink it way too much. And like, sometimes I release things maybe, especially like music or impulsively or like too quickly. I'm like, oh, I love this. I just want to share it. Like sometimes the same day or like right after. Like, I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
was that really? And sometimes I notice myself taking things off, like YouTube or whatever. But like when Nadia Says in particular, I have I think my first version, it was improvised really, and I had some words in there, but that one was so emotional, so raw, much longer. It was on Facebook. I like deleted that account, not because of that, but I don't even know if there's like I have a recording of it anymore, at least video. And that one, I don't know if it was a Facebook Live or what, but like it was out there, and then I like rewrote it, and then this time around I was gonna do it like more a public setting, like YouTube or something, and I'm like, wow, this. I'm like, I don't know. I had such a struggle with releasing it. I talked about it with someone, all the ramifications. Eventually, I ended up releasing it, and after years later, it's like, do I still feel that struggle? Not as much, no, because I feel like I've made peace with it, and once it goes out in the world, it's its own thing.
yeah,
But yes, a lot of times, sometimes I do really struggle. What are the ramifications of sharing this? How is it going to land? And is this gonna? I don't know. Some of it I just like. I feel like, oh, I just want to share. I don't think it through, or maybe do it impulsively. But I think when I feel like it's ready, I don't always know, honestly. And sometimes I might change my mind and feel too vulnerable, but something about the live performance is totally different, and everything has a life of its own. Like, yeah, when you let it out into the world, but I'm not really sure I've discovered fully when that is. But sometimes I feel like maybe what we were talking about earlier about the advocacy, like you just need to say it. It just needs to be said, even if you're afraid, even if you don't know how it's going to be taken, even if you feel, oh, am I gonna get backlash? Am I gonna even lose my life for this? I don't know. That's sometimes things that come to my mind. That
yeah,
maybe that was a little oversharing too, but because I feel like what I have to say is so important, and I tell myself I'm willing to lose my life for it because like that sounds grandiose and maybe crazy, but maybe when you tell the truth, sometimes it will be met with opposition, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so for me, it's like sometimes I need to share this. It needs to be shared, and a lot of times I want to do it for other people so they're not alone, especially other Asian American women. Like,
yeah,
hey, you're not crazy. This is real. This is valid, and yeah. So I feel like that's my main audience in a lot of ways. That's who and I think everyone could connect on the human experience, even if you don't have that particular experience, that it resonates with a lot of people. So I think like part of me is like, I need to do this, even for myself. I need to like again, be a witness. Hey, this happened, and
yeah.
I don't care how you feel about it. I need to say this for myself and also for other people to make them feel you're not crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Where for me, I think I'm usually writing a song or creating something because I have something to say in the moment, and
Yeah.
it's really hard for me not to go, look, world, this is the greatest thing I've ever created, you know, and in my years later, in my older age, I've learned to have a little patience and do that a little less frequently. And maybe it's the medication. I'm not sure. Yeah, but are there any artists or music or literary or poets or maybe advocacy people that you feel have shaped your work or given you the courage to keep creating? They could be anyone famous or just someone in your life, or a family
Yeah.
member or anything.
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. Like when I think about literary people just off the top of my head that I think are so courageous or I relate and like so talented. Like I think my favorite poet that I've come to discover more recently is Lucille Clifton. And
Okay.
man, I think she's the best poet ever. I don't know, like just the way she can use words and then what she had to say was so powerful and like such a voice that needs to be heard. I just recommend her to everyone. And I got my first book, like poetry book that my first therapist gave me kind of as a parting gift because we did like a poetry exercise and she like saw the talent I had and encouraged it. And she gave me a book of poems by Mary Oliver, and
Oh,
that
okay.
was really impactful and inspirational. And just there's been others throughout that I've just discovered are really impactful, like Victoria Chang, just an amazing talent. And in terms of like people I know, advocacy that are artists that like are in the mental health community, peers. I have a friend who's also an Asian American woman and has done so much work, not just for our community, but like the unhoused community, the mental health community, working as a peer specialist and just so out there and so raw and honest and such an advocate.
Oh,
That's someone I know, and she's in the community. I want to say her name, but I don't know if she. I think she's already so public and out there, but she's someone that inspires me.
okay.
And just knowing that, like, just when I hear about all these different advocates, like you, like all that you're
Oh,
doing,
shucks.
the more I hear about people, I'm like, wow, they exist. Wow, I'm just like so happy. And I'm just so inspired and encouraged. Like, I didn't know people are doing so many things, and they do it a lot of times not well known, right? They're not doing it to be famous or to
Right.
be known. They're doing it out of like a lot of times out of personal experience and a deep need. And I just love that. It inspires me every time I see that.
Needs
Yeah,
to be done, so they're doing it.
exactly.
What gives you hope these days in your art, your community, or just in small everyday things? You've talked before about how tough the world can feel, and yet you keep
Mhm.
showing up. You keep creating, you keep connecting,
Mm.
and I'd love to know what helps you personally keep going. What brings you joy or motivation right now in your life?
That is such a good question. Wow. The first, well, my cat, Mulan. And so I don't know, I feel like she keeps me going, like just like her presence, needing to just take care of her and getting up and putting the food in
Yeah,
the bowl. Like and she's so deep and she just will stare at me and just I don't know, sometimes when I have a spirituality where like I believe in God and I talk to him like through Jesus, but sometimes
yeah,
I feel my mental health is so I sometimes feel like I can't even talk to him. And then one time like I heard of something in me like, "Oh, talk to me through your cat." So I would like talk to my cat like, "Mulan, I feel this way. I feel so disconnected from God. I feel this." And then that helps me or like I'll write
nice.
a poem and that helps me to connect. Going to Tunefoolery like check-ins or
Yeah,
like having something to go to like the regular weekly open mics or going to like appointments, like go to my DBT skills group, having appointments to go to like that really is helpful. It's like, oh, I have to get up, I have to do this, I have to take care of my cat. Oh, this poem, I don't know how to deal with these overwhelming emotions. Let me just try this poem. That helped calm me down. When I've done it, the mindful self-compassion practice through the Center for Mindful Self-Compassion, their guided meditations and like
Oh,
those practices have really helped me, which I
yeah.
haven't done it consistently, but sometimes like or just maybe like my church community going to a small group or being able to talk to someone that can really listen.
Hmm.
Um, I sometimes feel like I don't always feel like I can do that. So like having my cat or a poem, creativity. Sometimes it's hard to access these things when you're not feeling well, but I guess these are things that I can think about that help me to keep going.
Yeah. I'm so happy that you said your cat. I know, oh, you met Okami, yes?
She's right there. Oh, yes, I
Yeah, yeah.
have.
So Okami was the same for me. She got me up in the morning, she got me out the door, I had to feed her, and so it was very helpful in my routines on those hard mornings. And I am working my way towards a cat.
Oh,
So
yes.
yeah, I'm keeping an eye out and getting my resources together so I can get a cat. And so it's been nice. But Amy, this has been so wonderful. I've had
Thank
such a wonderful
you.
time, and I really feel like my community is going to receive a lot of wonderful information through watching this interview. And I'm excited this weekend. I'll get to see you in person, and anyone who comes
Yeah.
down, to the show and say hi. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I'm excited for the show this weekend, and I'm excited for my audience to meet the person who inspires me. You inspire me in so many different ways. So I'm really
Oh.
happy to share with my community, whom I care about, someone who is a wonderful person, has a wonderful heart, and a courageous soul of a warrior, and an advocate. And I'm really happy that you bless each life that you touch. So thanks for joining us today, and I didn't mean to make you cry.
Thank you,
But
Kev. It's
thanks.
an
And
honor.
so thanks everybody for watching, and there'll be information about Amy in the description below, and her event this weekend, and whatever other information she gives me to share with you will be in the description below. And I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.
Bye. Listening to a new song on the train, and I know who I am, who I am. If only for the moment, I know where I'm going. Red line where I am, looking out into the sunset, and here I am, and here I am. It was a band who helped me understand, taking my time in this moment to recognize that I'm alive. One time I didn't want to,
Woo!
Yeah.
That sounded great.
Oh, I can't hear you.